Today I wanted to take a look at a couple of late summer blooming perennials that we have here in the garden. And this first one is in our blue and yellow garden. However, it's also in the mint family. This is Jerusalem sage. It's a type of phlomis, and we actually planted this in here last year and it never bloomed for us. Well, this year it started to bloom, and you can see that we have some beautiful yellow blooms on it. Now this will continue to bloom for us until frost, and you can see as you move up the stem how it actually blooms one on top of the other. So these blooms just basically move right up the stem. Now, in observing this, you would note that this is a plant that you do not want to deadhead, because you'd be cutting off the rest of your blooms. So that in itself makes it yet another pretty carefree perennial. Now the foliage on this is also gorgeous. We have some beautiful green, very soft leaves. If you look on the underneath side, they're nice and a beautiful fuzz to them. This is a very pretty texture plant in the garden. And the other thing that you don't really have to worry about too much if you plant a phlomis is weeds coming up in there, because these really serve to shade out anything underneath. So we don't have any weeds coming up in amongst our plant. Now it is just pretty much started blooming here in the last month, and it's not just extremely showy as far as the blooms are concerned. However, I think as these start to grow up further and bloom, we'll be able to see the yellow blooms on them better. But even without the bloom, it is a very nice plant. Now, phlomis likes to be planted in an area of either full sun or partial shade, and it needs well-drained soil. However, it can stay moist. You don't want it in a boggy situation. However, if you've got a garden spot where it is watered but drains very well, that's a good spot to put phlomis. Now, we've got another plant in the mint family that's blooming like crazy right now. Now, as you can see, this Spicesthesia is absolutely covered with flowers. This plant is also known as obedient plant, and it is really blooming this time of year. That's a nice thing to have in the garden, because here in the late summer, a lot of plants don't bloom. Now, the reason that it's called obedient plant is supposedly the flowers are supposed to pretty much stay where you put them when you bend them. And they do to some extent. However, I haven't seen it be quite so obedient as what I thought it would be. However, that really doesn't matter, because we've got some great blooms here. Now this one is called, this cultivar is called Red Beauty, and while the flowers aren't red, they are a beautiful violet shade here. The plant can get anywhere from 3 to almost 4 feet tall, and you can see here we've got some pretty tall stems. They, however, have fallen over because we had a storm. They are filled with flowers and still make a nice, beautiful floral spot in the garden. Now, obedient plant likes really partially shady to a sunny area and moist, rich soil. However, it will tolerate a drier soil. Now, if you do give it a moist, rich soil, what's going to happen is it's going to spread on you very rapidly, and you can even see here we've got some already coming up from seed and from the root. So you're going to want to divide this. In fact, sometimes if it's got really great soil, you can divide it practically every year so you can share it with your friends. The nice thing about that is it will cover an area for you quickly, and while you won't have a lot of bloom earlier in the year, you can sit tight, because this is going to look really pretty for you later on in the summer.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.